Jackie, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Hearth and Apron, and back to my kitchen, because today I have a Cook With Me episode that I am just thrilled to share with you. So I decided to challenge myself to make it a little bit fun, so I chose one ingredient for the first 3 recipes that we're all going to have in common so that I could do a spin. So the first 3 recipes all use crescent roll, and I will show you how to use that for an awesome breakfast, lunch, and dinner idea. We are also going to make some homemade manicotti with homemade sauce made from scratch. So excited. That one's a little bit extra. All the rest of the recipes are really simple, except manicotti. And then we're going to end it off with a chicken noodle soup that is just filled with immune boosting properties that I hope that you are really going to enjoy. Either way, I just want to thank you for being here today. If you are someone that is back, I just really appreciate your support. It means so very much to me. And if you're new today, I hope that you will hit that like and subscribe button and join my YouTube family. I am a homemaker and stay-at-home mom who likes to make motivating content to help you get through your to-do list and, just to tackle those tasks that we all have looming over top of us while still having a good time. Anyways, let's go ahead and get cooking. We're going to start this episode out by making breakfast spirals. And yep, it's just as easy as it sounds. We're going to pull out a crescent roll sheet and just kind of put it out here. You're going to notice that I'm using this same baking sheet that I used from my last episode with the pie bites. It works so wonderful. I don't even know how I worked with parchment so long. This works so much better. Anyways, I have some scrambled eggs that I cooked over to the side, and I'm just going to arrange them on the top, as well as some bacon that I cooked too. And I just cooked breakfast, throwing it on top of the puff pastry. I've got some parsley from our yard and green onion. I'm going to put on a layer of cheese, and then I'm just going to roll this up. So it is so simple. And this is actually a great thing to do too if, let's say, you make a little bit too many eggs in the morning and so you want to just kind of prepare yourself for breakfast the next day. So I'm going to tuck in the edges so that all my stuffing doesn't come out when it's in the oven. And then I'm going to add a little bit of everything bagel seasoning onto the top and just kind of press it in. And then I'm going to pull out a piece of saran wrap, and I am just going to put this into my saran wrap and kind of bundle it up tightly, and we'll revisit this recipe tomorrow morning. The next day. So we are going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. I have one of these ceramic baking pans, and I'm going to go ahead and cut 1-inch slices of this crescent roll. Now make sure that you kind of support the back as you pull it through so you don't lose any of that wonderful bacon. Goodness knows no one wants to lose bacon or cheese. And I'm just going to go ahead and spindle them around on here, and I'm going to put them into the oven until I notice these crescent rolls are starting to get golden. I think it took me about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not very good at timing, but don't they look amazing? They tasted even better than they look, and we really enjoyed them. If you try this out, don't forget to tag me on Instagram so I can see your pics. And just like that, we're off to the next recipe. Now we're going to make ham and cheese rolls, which is basically a spin on exactly what we just made, but with a slight variation. And it is even easier to make, frankly. So you're going to spread out your puff pastry, your crescent roll sheet. They look so similar in their own way. And then you're just going to take some black forest ham and just do a full layer all the way across your puff pastry sheet, keeping it really simple. Now, I have Munster cheese that I'm using today, but it does not matter what cheese you would like to use. Any cheese is the right answer. Now, I would suggest using shredded cheese. You're going to see that I sliced it, and while I do love all the crunchy cheese that kind of poured out the sides all over my pan, it wasn't really what I was going for. So I would really suggest using the shredded cheese because it just kind of makes less of a mess. So once you get all of this covered with a layer of cheese, you are just going to simply roll this on up, just like we did with that breakfast roll. And then you're going to kind of cut off the sides. If you'd like to do a little bit more of that everyday breakfast, or I don't know, every bagel seasoning, then now is the time. And we are going to cook these by cutting them into 1-inch strips, just like we did with the breakfast ones. And I am just going to set them out and cook them at 350 degrees until they get golden. This recipe was one of my daughter's childhood favorites. I used to make this for her when she was just tired of eating everything else, and it just always was still a really exciting, wonderful treat for her to have. I hope that you like this, and if you do, let me know down below what you think of it, and if you try it. Again, don't forget to tag me. I want to see your pics. Now we are going to go ahead and make chicken broccoli braid. And to start, I'm going to show you how I make my chicken. I go ahead and I just drizzle a whole bunch of olive oil all over my pan, and then I put 1 finely diced shallot and about a teaspoon of garlic into the pan, and I let it saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then after that, I add about 1.5 to 2 chicken breasts, finely diced, into the pan as well. And then I give a hearty sprinkle of dill, and I also add salt and pepper to taste. Now this chicken in this part of this recipe is kind of however you would like to make it. The recipe later calls for dill, so I like to keep it really simple and just with dill and salt and pepper so that those other flavors that I'm going to add can kind of take over themselves. So while we've got that chicken cooking over in the pan, we're going to pull out our mixing bowl, where we're going to put 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, a 1/4 cup of diced orange bell pepper, pardon me, and 1/2 cup of diced up broccoli. And don't forget to check your chicken periodically because it doesn't take that long to cook when you are dicing it up like that. Then we are going to add 1/4 to 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. You're going to notice I don't measure that well. That's because I've made this recipe so many times I just kind of eye it out. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of dill and that chicken once it's all finished, and mix that all up. Once it's mixed, I'm going to add a hearty handful of Colby Jack cheese, and then we're going to set this aside and pull out our crescent rolls. Now we're going to pull out our crescent rolls, and I have this on a non-stick. It's kind of like a clay baking pan that actually came from Pampered Chef. But you can see that this did not work out near as easy as when I used the puff pastry sheets. Unfortunately, when I made this recipe, they were out. But you're going to see that it just did not handle near as well, so I definitely encourage you when making this, find the sheet if possible, but if not, you can stitch it together like you saw me do. And then we're going to go ahead and just stuff all of the stuffing that we made right along the center. And then we're going to take our knife and make little marks kind of going down diagonally opposite on each side. And I'm going to say we're about 1/2 inch apart. And I try to keep them even, and then we're just going to cross them over top. Now you're going to see too that this kind of looks terribly messy, and it doesn't look that great as I'm piecing it all together, and I kind of get a little lazy with it. But it still looks fantastic when it's made. Then you're going to go over it with an egg wash and put on some slivered almonds. And I totally forgot to add on the, I think it's everything bagel seasoning, but that also adds just a little bit extra here. Let me know if you try this recipe. I think it is outstanding. Make sure to tag me on Instagram. Up next, we have homemade manicotti with our own homemade sauce, of course. So we're going to start out by making our sauce. And to do that, we are going to take a whole package of Italian sausage. I prefer to work with hot, but it doesn't matter, just go with what you want. And I put a 1/4 cup of water into a pan, cover it with a lid, cook it for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're actually cooked all the way. And then I put 2 tablespoons of oil down at the bottom of this pan and just kind of cook them and fry the outside a little bit, just letting that oil absorb the flavor from those Italian sausages. Then I add 1 diced shallot, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, and I'm going to work that into the pan and kind of let these saute for just a couple minutes. Now once those are sauteed enough, we are going to throw in 1/2 package of diced mushrooms and a 1/4 cup of diced orange bell pepper. It doesn't matter what color bell pepper, I like orange best. And I am just going to go ahead and mix these in with that oil as well and just kind of let them develop and just take into that flavor from the sausage and just kind of cook and saute until I feel that the mushrooms are starting to get cooked all the way. See there, that is just looking perfect. You can see the mushrooms have kind of got that brown color as opposed to the natural color of the mushroom when they first are raw. And now it's time for me to add 6 diced tomatoes, and I am just going to give this a really good stir and cover it up and let it just sit until it starts to make its own sauce. You're going to kind of see a change in the consistency like this, exactly. See, it's going to just become a sauce itself. And once you get there, it's time to add your seasonings. I'm going to add 2 bay leaves that I'm going to kind of crush up a little bit, a dash of oregano, a dash of black pepper, as well as a hearty dash of parsley. I would love to tell you exactly how much I measured, but it's just not my nature, guys. I'm really sorry about that. Once that's done, you're just going to go ahead and put back on the lid, let it cook for another 4 to 5 minutes so all those flavors can combine, and then it's time to pull out your immersion blender. And this is going to take a little bit, but make sure to have patience with yourself and just go ahead and get it as finely blended as possible. Now, if you like a chunkier sauce, you can of course not do it quite as much. Our family likes it very pureed. And then once this sauce is really just at its peak, I'm going to go ahead and add a dash of salt. I like to wait for the salt for the end because I feel like it gives me a chance to not over salt as much and to just kind of see how those flavors combine and see what it might need. And then I'm going to add that Italian sausage to this mix, and this is done and ready, and we're going to set it aside and go to work on the cheese mix. Now that the sauce is done, we can set that to the side, and it's time to make our filling for our manicotti. And what we're going to start with is 8 ounces of ricotta cheese, 1 cup of mozzarella, and 1 cup of Parmesan Romano. On top of that, we are going to sprinkle some salt, parsley, oregano, a little bit of garlic powder, and a dash of onion powder as well. And then we are going to add 1 egg to this mixture. Now, once that is done, we're going to cook this on low, just kind of consistently stirring it until it kind of becomes like a giant mush or dough is almost what it looks like. And it kind of just, it's just a whole combined thing of the different cheeses all melted together, and it's going to take a little bit. So have patience, just kind of work it in. This will be worth it. This is not one of my easy recipes. This was kind of hands-on, but I saw it on Pinterest and I really wanted to try it. I didn't actually get this recipe from Pinterest itself. I kind of made it up as I went along after looking at several different ones. Now, once all of that is kind of combined together, you are going to add 1 tablespoon of heavy whipping cream just to kind of make it a little bit lighter, because you don't want it to be too thick and lumpy or it's not going to go through the piping bag. And so we're going to let this cook for a couple more minutes until it starts to get up to a light boil, because I really want it to be as thin as possible. And I was a little bit lazy, so I put in chunks of mozzarella cheese instead of grated it, which would have made it a lot faster. So I'm just going to keep stirring it over and over again until it is time to bring out my piping bag. Now, as you can see, I have this in a glass, kind of turned inside out. And this is a trick my friend Heath taught me years ago with frosting, and it helps with anything you're trying to put in a piping bag. And it really makes it so that it doesn't flop over and make a giant mess. Now, we're going to go over to our pan that we're using in the oven, and we're going to start to preheat the oven to 350, by the way. And just put a first layer on this whole bottom with the sauce that we made. And then we're going to start grabbing these manicotti shells that I cooked on the side. Sorry, I forgot to tell you about that. But you're going to want to make sure those are cooked on the side. And then you're just going to fill it up with this ricotta cheese mix. Now, you're going to see that it's kind of a little stringy, and I kind of have to like pinch it off, but it worked out really well. I actually had way more ricotta cheese than I needed, but this was as big of a pan as I have. So anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and get these filled, and then I'll get back to you. Now that those are all filled, we are just going to go ahead and grab our sauce and just put all the sausage and sauce just kind of evenly spread all along the top. You want to make sure and kind of work some of that sauce into the cracks. Think of it kind of like enchiladas. You kind of layer it the same way. And after we're done with that, I am just going to layer it with an entire coat of mozzarella and then some more Parmesan cheese. And it's time to throw it into the oven at 350 degrees until that cheese on top starts to get kind of golden brown. Now we're off to our last recipe. So right now we are going to make chicken noodle soup. And my family's chicken noodle soup, or as my daughter used to call it when she was little, Mommy's Feel Better soup, is largely a vegetable and chicken stock that I like to make with just packed with nutrients so that you can get as much out of it as possible. So what I'm going to do is in this pot, I'm really going to roughly cut up my vegetables because it doesn't matter what shape they're in. I'm going to be able to use them all the same. I'm going to add 3 carrots, 1 red onion, a small head of celery, 1 head of garlic, 1 shallot, and 1 leek. And then I'm also going to add 2 green onions, 1 tablespoon of astragalus root, which is a really great immune booster, which is why I add it. Now, something that you might not know about astragalus root is you need to put it in something like this that's going to get a really hearty cooking if you're going to try to put it in any kind of a tea or water-based substance, because it just does not blend with water per se the same. And so it has to be cooked for an extreme amount of time to get all of those nutrients out of it. So which is why I love cooking it in my pressure cooker. And then I'm also going to add half a teaspoon of coriander seeds. Once this is done, I am going to add some bone-in chicken. Now, when I defrosted my chicken, I thought that I had chicken thighs, but no, it would appear I accidentally defrosted the drumsticks. So another life lesson of how important it is to properly label all of your stuff in your freezer. Either way though, this still worked out even though they were drumsticks, and I actually had way more chicken than I expected. You might be thinking, that's a lot of vegetables that I'm just going to strain out. But don't worry, because you pressure cooked them and we've cooked them so long, we've actually cooked all the nutrients out of these vegetables and it's now in our broth. Alright, now all of my ingredients are in my pot and I am just going to fill the water up to the maximum water line. And then I'm going to put it into my Instant Pot on pressure cooker setting for 2 hours. After that's done, I just do a quick release and I'm going to strain out all of these goodies in my pot, leaving just the really good broth. Now, I could put this directly back into my Instant Pot, but I would have had to put it into one pot and then put it back into the Instant Pot. I just decided to go ahead and throw it onto the stove in a normal pot and cook up some noodles inside. And while all this was going on, I shredded the chicken from those lovely little drumsticks as well and set that aside before I got rid of all my goodies. Once you have your chicken shredded and it's set to the side and you have cooked your egg noodles, it is now time to combine all of these ingredients and have dinner. I hope that you enjoy this soup. It is something that is a giant comfort food for my family. Let me know down below what you think. So, what'd you think? Did any of these recipes look like they were worth eating to you? Let me know down below. Also, did you enjoy this cook with me content, or would you prefer me to keep with my cleaning and decorating content you've seen in the past? And don't forget to make sure to hit that bell button so that you can have all the notifications coming, because coming soon, I have a brand new episode where we are going to help make the at-home school space for my daughter, as well as to kind of give her room a couple new fun, fresh touches. And coming next week, it's time for fall, baby! I am so excited. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.